A sword from the Great Army's winter camps cannot identify its owner as a son of Ragnar. That physical limit matters because the revenge legend promises a family certainty archaeology does not provide. Later stories say Ragnar's sons invaded England to punish King Ælla for killing their father. Near contemporary records, instead, show a formidable Scandinavian army pursuing conquest, tribute land, and political opportunity. This legend did not emerge from nothing, but its clean motive fails when tested against the surviving chronology. Begin with Ragnar's supposed death, the event that should set revenge in motion. No 9th century English source records Ælla casting Ragnar into a snake pit. The Northumbrian king is historical, and coins bearing his name confirm authority during a bitterly divided kingdom. Ragnar's capture and execution, however, enter the record through later narrative traditions. Without that trigger, the invasion cannot be securely described as a retaliatory family expedition. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle reports that a great heathen army came to England in 865. Its annalistic entries follow campaigning, wintering, negotiations, and changes of power rather than a father's funeral obligation. The force took York in 866 amid conflict between Northumbrian rivals Ælla and Osbert. Both kings were killed when they attempted to recover the city in 867. Their deaths offered later narrators an irresistible endpoint for Ragnar's vengeance. Yet the Chronicle never explains the conquest of York as punishment for Ragnar. Its silence does not prove the motive impossible, but it removes the strongest contemporary support the legend would need. Campaign behavior points toward broader objectives extending well beyond Northumbria. The army moved through Mercia and East Anglia, received provisions, fought rulers, and occupied strategic winter quarters. Its leaders pursued wealth and territory across kingdoms unconnected to Ælla's alleged offense. Revenge may have been imaginable within warrior culture, but it cannot account for the campaign's entire political geography. The next difficulty lies with the brothers themselves. Ivar, Halfdan, and Ubba appear in sources of differing date and reliability, while Bjorn's associations develop elsewhere. Later texts arrange these figures as Ragnar's sons, but their lists rarely agree perfectly. Some genealogies add Sigurd Snake in the Eye, Hvitserk, or other figures according to regional storytelling needs. A changing sibling group indicates that the family became an organizing device for remembered conquest. It may preserve genuine kinship among some leaders, yet the complete household remains unverified. Irish annals provide an especially important parallel through Eamar, a major Scandinavian leader active around the Irish Sea. Many scholars connect Eamar with Ivar, although the identification is strongly argued rather than conclusively demonstrated. The Annals of Ulster later describe Eamar as ruling Norse communities throughout Ireland and Britain. That title places his power within a maritime political network much larger than one Northumbrian vendetta. If Eamar was Ivar, the revenge hero was simultaneously a ruler operating across several theaters. If they were different men, later tradition compressed distinct careers even more dramatically. Either result weakens a simple tale of brothers sailing together for one personal purpose. Halfdan emerges as a commander who fought, negotiated, and participated in Scandinavian settlement in Northumbria. The Chronicle associates his following with land sharing in 876, a development requiring occupation beyond battlefield retaliation. These processes imposed costs upon English communities while also binding Scandinavian settlers to new seasonal and political demands. Ubba appears in English tradition as a prominent army leader, but later stories assign him increasingly elaborate roles. His historical outline is thinner than the confident saga sibling portrait suggests. Bjorn Ironside presents another problem because Frankish and later Scandinavian traditions place a Bjorn in different contexts. The identification of every Bjorn with Ragnar's son cannot simply be assumed from a famous name. Sigurd's place matters most within later Scandinavian dynastic imagination, where descent could connect heroic time to royal lines. Thus, each brother opened a separate corridor through which Ragnar's family expanded. The revenge legend joined those corridors, turning distributed power into coordinated filial duty. Its success depended on moral clarity that actual coalition warfare rarely supplies. A large mobile army required ships, food, horses, repair materials, intelligence, negotiation, and divisions of captured resources. Commanders had to manage followers whose interests could include silver, land, prestige, survival, and independent advancement. One murdered father could symbolize unity, but it could not provision thousands or settle disputes among leaders. Local English divisions also enabled the army's successes. Northumbria's competing kings weakened resistance around York, while other kingdoms alternated between battle, payment, and accommodation. Reducing these events to vengeance removes the agency of English rulers and the structural weaknesses the invaders exploited. It also hides the experiences of people whose farms supplied armies and whose political loyalties faced sudden pressure. Revenge works differently in literature because a storyteller can convert complex logistics into moral momentum. A father's death provides a beginning, identifiable sons provide instruments, and Ælla's defeat provides closure. That design makes separate annal entries feel like stages in a single intended action. Medieval audiences already understood feud as a framework connecting kinship, honor, compensation, and violence. The Ragnar cycle elevated that framework until the feud reshaped kingdoms. Christian authors could also read the sequence as punishment, pride, or the instability of worldly power. Scandinavian royal traditions found another use by presenting conquerors as heirs to exceptional ancestry. Its fullest versions appeared long after the campaigns of the later 9th century. The tale of Ragnar's sons, the saga of Ragnar Lothbrok, and related traditions coordinate names and episodes differently. Saxo Grammaticus likewise creates an expansive Ragnar narrative within his history of Danish kings and heroes. None offers an unmediated transcript of 9th century planning. Their authors shaped inherited materials for audiences concerned with lineage, rulership, conversion, and memorable narrative form. Details such as messages, speeches, symbolic executions, and precisely staged responses belong to storytelling, not contemporary testimony. The famous blood eagle motif requires particular caution because later texts vary, and its interpretation remains heavily debated. It should not be presented as a securely documented punishment inflicted upon Ælla. When dramatic violence dominates retelling, it can obscure the better attested transformation of northern England. York became a major center under Scandinavian power connected to trade, craft production, coinage, and regional lordship. The conquering army fractured into contingents pursuing different opportunities. Some leaders crossed kingdoms, others settled, and further forces continued campaigning against Wessex and Mercia. That divergence is precisely where the unified revenge mission reaches its explanatory limit. A personal objective, even if held by some participants, cannot be recovered for the coalition as a whole. Nor can archaeology label a camp occupant by saga genealogy. Sites associated with the Great Army reveal mobility and prolonged presence through objects, metalworking, coin loss, and burial evidence. Repton in Derbyshire preserves an important winter camp landscape linked to the army's stay in 873 and 874. Excavation there illuminates occupation and burial, though individual identities and family relationships remain disputed. Torksey in Lincolnshire has yielded abundant material from the army's wintering in 872 and 873. The scale and variety of finds suggest an organized community engaged in repair, exchange, and daily maintenance. These camps show that campaigning was lived through mud, damaged equipment, cooking, illness, trade, and uncertain allegiance. They cannot reveal whether a craftsman or fighter believed he was avenging Ragnar. One reconstructs what an army needed and where it stayed. The other explains how later communities made conquest meaningful. Later storytellers gained support when English historical consequences seemed to confirm Scandinavian family memory. Ælla really did fall fighting an invading army at York. Powerful leaders associated with Ragnar's later son lists really did operate across Britain and Ireland. Those secure points formed pegs upon which a compelling causal story could hang. Over generations, uncertain kinship became a disciplined brotherhood, and strategic conquest became filial repayment. The process did not merely exaggerate events, it rearranged their explanation. Land-taking, coalition politics, and regional opportunity moved behind an emotionally complete motive. That rearrangement helped audiences remember several commanders as one family acting across a single moral landscape. It also made Ragnar important without requiring him to survive in contemporary English records. His sons became evidence for their father inside the story, while his death became the reason for their fame. This circular design is narratively powerful and historically unsafe when treated as documentation. The Great Army's conquest of York and Ælla's death are supported by near-contemporary reporting. Ragnar's snake pit execution, the full brother list, and a coordinated revenge purpose belong principally to later tradition. Possible kinship among some leaders remains open, but no surviving family document resolves it. A closer contemporary statement connecting the army's commanders to Ragnar would radically improve the case. Until such evidence appears, the camps, coins, and chronicles describe conquest more securely than personal vengeance. The revenge legend succeeded because it gave scattered campaigns a father, a family, and a satisfying end. Its historical core is an invasion that remade kingdoms. Its remembered cause is a household duty no contemporary witness records.